The index card trembles between my fingers as I smooth its worn edges. 3 lines. That's all they gave me in the Festival Week program. 3 lines to welcome everyone to Jefferson High's annual celebration. Not exactly a starring role, but it was something, a small acknowledgement that I exist beyond my wheelchair. The red and gold banner stretches across the auditorium, swaying slightly in the air conditioning. Celebrating excellence, it proclaims in bold letters that seem to mock me as I wait in the wings of the stage. Students bustle around, important with their clipboards and walkie-talkies, while I sit unnoticed in the corner. Mrs. Peterson approaches, her sensible shoes squeaking against the polished floor. The creases around her mouth deepen as she spots me, and something in my chest tightens at her expression. "Violet," she says, her voice pitched unnaturally high. "About your part in the program." I know what's coming before she says another word. I've seen this look before, pity mixed with discomfort, the universal expression people wear when they're about to disappoint the girl in the wheelchair. "We've had to make some adjustments to the schedule," Mrs. Peterson continues, not quite meeting my eyes. "The opening has been reassigned to the student council president." "To Madison," I clarify, my voice flat. "To my sister." Mrs. Peterson's smile stretches thin. "Yes, she has the experience with public speaking, and the committee felt that I might roll off the stage." The words slip out before I can catch them. Her eyes widen. "Of course not. We just thought, with your condition." My condition, like being in a wheelchair, is a disease that might be catching. "I understand," I say, though I don't. I fold the index card, creasing it sharply between my fingers before tucking it into my pocket. A souvenir of another opportunity evaporated. Mrs. Peterson pats my shoulder awkwardly before scurrying away, relieved to have completed the unpleasant task. I sit alone in the wings, watching the final preparations, invisible to everyone rushing past. Until Madison appears. My sister glides toward me in her crisp white blouse and perfectly pressed slacks. At 19, she's everything I'm not: tall, graceful, unencumbered. Her honey blonde hair swings in a sleek ponytail, catching the light from the stage. Student council president, valedictorian, community volunteer, the golden child. "There you are," Madison says, her smile bright and practiced. "Mom's been looking for you. She wants you positioned by the side of the stage during my speech. Not in the audience with everyone else. By the side where I can be acknowledged with a gesture at the appropriate moment. Madison's devoted sister, her special project." "Mrs. Peterson just told me I've been cut from the program," I say. Madison's smile doesn't waver. "It's for the best, Vi. You get so anxious about public speaking." She moves behind my wheelchair without asking, gripping the handles. "Let's get you in position." I want to tell her I can wheel myself, that I've been doing it for 5 years, but the words stick in my throat as she pushes me toward the edge of the stage. I'm so busy swallowing my objections that I don't immediately notice when we stop moving. "This ramp is so inconvenient," Madison mutters, and I feel the wheelchair shift as she adjusts something. Then suddenly weightlessness. A sickening lurch as the front wheels clear the edge of the platform, the horrifying realization that I'm falling forward. My hands grip the armrests, but it's too late. The wheelchair tips, and I spill onto the concrete floor below the stage. Pain shoots through my shoulder and hip. My cheek scrapes against the rough surface. Gasps echo through the auditorium. Footsteps rush toward me. "Oh my God," Madison's voice rings out, theatrical in its concern. "She must have released the brake. Violet, are you okay? I told you to be careful." I taste blood where I've bitten my lip. Through watering eyes, I see faces swimming above me, concerned, uncomfortable, believing. They always believe Madison. "She's just too weak to manage herself sometimes," Madison explains to the gathering crowd, her voice carrying just enough for everyone to hear. "This happens at home too." The lie slides from her lips so smoothly that for a moment, I almost believe it myself. Strong hands help me back into my wheelchair, Mr. Sanderson from the music department, and a janitor whose name I don't know. The pain in my shoulder throbs as they lift me, but I don't make a sound. "Should we call your mother?" Mr. Sanderson asks. Before I can answer, Madison pulls out her phone. Already texting her, "Don't worry about it." The crowd begins to disperse, the drama over. I hear the whispers as they walk away. Poor thing. Good thing her sister was there. Must be so hard for the family. Madison kneels beside me, making a show of checking my scraped cheek. "You need to be more careful, Vi," she says, loud enough for the lingering onlookers. "You always need special attention." My phone buzzes in my pocket. With shaking fingers, I pull it out. A text from Mom. "Don't cause trouble for Madison today, it's her big day." The words blur as tears threaten, but I blink them back. 5 years ago, before the accident, before the car crash that took my mobility and shifted our family's center of gravity toward Madison, Mom would have rushed to my side. Now, I'm an inconvenience, a complication in the perfect family narrative. I look up and catch a glimpse of the auditorium's tech booth. A small red light blinks the recording system, capturing rehearsals for the week's events. Across the room, Taylor stands frozen, her phone partially hidden, her eyes wide with shock at what she's just witnessed. Today was the day I realized silence wasn't protecting me anymore. It was burying me. I wheel myself toward the sound booth, away from Madison's performative concern. I'd like to understand the setup better. I tell the audio technician, my voice steadier than I feel. For accessibility purposes. Some falls aren't accidents, and some silences need to be broken. At home later that day, the journal feels heavier than its spiral-bound pages should allow as I pull it from beneath my mattress. 5 years of documentation. 5 years of incidents that seemed isolated until I started connecting them with ink and dates. My bedroom door is locked, a small rebellion I fought for after the accident. Mom thought it was dangerous, but Dad quietly installed a simple push-button lock during one of his brief visits home. "Everyone deserves privacy," he'd said, his eyes meeting mine with understanding. I wheel to my desk, spreading open the worn notebook. The pages fan out like evidence at a crime scene. Each entry written in my careful handwriting, growing steadier over the years as my hands became stronger. The 14th of February, 2021. Science fair medal missing from my drawer. Madison told Mom I probably misplaced it. Searched everywhere. Found the ribbon in Madison's keepsake box 3 weeks later. When confronted, she said she was keeping it safe. The 3rd of October, 2022. Dr. Harmon promised to send a recommendation letter for the writing program. When I called to follow up, his secretary said it had been mailed 2 weeks ago. Madison handled our mail that month while Mom was visiting Grandma. Letter never appeared. May 7, 2023. Family photos for church directory. Somehow I'm half hidden in every shot. Photographer suggested, "Maybe we should move Violet to the side so the wheelchair doesn't dominate the picture." Madison quickly agreed. My finger traces a pattern across the pages. Not coincidences, not accidents. A systematic erasure, one small incident at a time. 3 sharp knocks on my door break the silence. "Just a minute," I call, quickly sliding the journal into my desk drawer. Taylor stands in the hallway, her normally easy smile tight with tension. She glances over her shoulder before slipping into my room, closing the door behind her. "I've got it," she whispers, pulling her phone from her pocket. "I caught everything." My heart pounds as she sits on my bed, angling the screen so I can see. The video is clear despite being taken from across the auditorium, Madison behind my wheelchair. Her hands adjusting something, then the subtle push as the front wheels clear the edge of the platform. "Play it again," I say, my voice steadier than I feel. Taylor taps the screen. This time I focus on Madison's face, the fleeting satisfaction before it transforms into theatrical concern. "She did it on purpose," Taylor says. "There's no way that was an accident." I know. The words taste like freedom and fear simultaneously. Taylor's eyes widen. "You knew she would do something like this?" "Not specifically this." I gesture toward my journal in the drawer. "But there's been a pattern." Footsteps in the hallway freeze us both. Taylor shoves her phone under my quilt as my door swings open without a knock. Madison stands in the doorway, a garment bag draped over her arm. Her smile doesn't reach her eyes as she takes in Taylor's presence. Oh, hey Taylor, girl talk? Madison's voice carries the same rehearsed warmth she uses for teachers and parents' friends. Mind if I borrow my sister? I picked up the perfect dress for her to wear to the award ceremony tomorrow. Before Taylor can answer, Madison hangs the garment bag on my closet door. Blue to match your eyes. Well, sort of. Your eyes are more hazel, but who notices details like that? I do, I think. I notice everything. I was just leaving, Taylor says, standing. She gives me a meaningful look. Text me later about that thing we discussed. Madison waits until Taylor leaves before unzipping the garment bag. Mom wanted me to help you get ready for tomorrow. You know how she worries about you managing buttons and zippers. I've been dressing myself for 5 years, but arguing would only extend this performance. Thanks, I say simply. I can take it from here. After Madison finally leaves, I text Taylor, meet me at school early tomorrow. Need to check something in the auditorium. The next morning, I arrive at Jefferson High 40 minutes before first bell. The hallways are quiet except for the occasional teacher preparing for the day. Taylor waits by the side entrance, 2 coffees in hand. 1 sugar, extra cream, she says, handing me a cup. Liquid courage. We make our way to the auditorium where Mr. Gonzalez, the audio technician, is adjusting equipment for the day's assembly. Hey, Violet. He smiles, genuine warmth in his expression. What brings you in so early? I wanted to ask about the recording system, I say, gesturing to the booth, for accessibility purposes. His smile fades slightly. What about it? Yesterday's rehearsal, was it recorded? All rehearsals are recorded, he confirms cautiously. School policy. I'd like a copy of yesterday's audio. I keep my voice steady. Under the school's accessibility accommodation policy, section 4.3. Taylor gives me a surprised look. I've done my research. Mr. Gonzalez hesitates. That's usually for students who miss class, not for students in wheelchairs? I finish quietly. He flushes. That's not what I meant. I know, but I need that recording. 15 minutes later, we sit in the empty choir room, Taylor's laptop open between us as we listen through headphones. Madison's voice comes through with crystal clarity. No one's going to believe her. She's too weak to fight back. Another voice, Alexis Winters, student council vice president, responds with obvious discomfort. Isn't that a little harsh, Madison? Madison's laugh cuts through the recording. She needs to learn her place. The Model Leadership Award is mine. The headphones suddenly feel too tight against my ears. I pull them off, letting them fall around my neck. Violet, Taylor whispers, what are you going to do? The anger I've contained for years burns hot and clean now, not the destructive kind that consumes everything in its path, but the focused heat that forges steel. I'm going to edit this file, I say, and I'm going to need your help. As we work, Taylor discovers something in the student council's shared drive. Look at this. The community service log for the Leadership Award nomination. The spreadsheet shows hours of volunteer work at the Children's Hospital reading to patients, organizing activities. But those are your hours, Taylor says, confused. You've been going there every Tuesday for 2 years. And Madison has been logging them as her own. The final piece clicks into place. That evening at home, I make a call I've been putting off. Aunt Marie, it's Violet. I need to ask you something about Madison. Her silence tells me she already knows what I'm going to ask. Later, alone in my room, I practice what I'll say tomorrow. The flash drive feels small in my palm, but it carries a weight that could shatter our family. The potential consequences scroll through my mind. Mom's devastation, the social backlash, the possibility that people still won't believe me. I wheel to my mirror, straightening my posture. The reflection shows a girl who looks both younger and older than 17, eyes too knowing, mouth too serious. Tomorrow they'll see me, I whisper to my reflection. In my journal, I write a final entry. The truth doesn't disappear just because it's uncomfortable. From downstairs, Mom's voice calls up. Madison's award ceremony is tomorrow. Don't forget to wear the blue dress she picked for you. I close my journal, tuck the flash drive into my wheelchair bag, and take a deep breath. Some truths can't stay hidden forever. The next day, the auditorium hums with anticipation. Parents clutch programs and smartphones, teachers hover near exits, and students fill every available seat. I wheel myself to the position Madison selected for me, just off to the side of the stage, visible enough to be acknowledged but not enough to distract. Principal Wilson catches my eye as he adjusts his tie. His gaze lingers a moment longer than usual, perhaps noticing something different in my posture. I straighten my shoulders under the blue dress Madison insisted I wear. The flash drive in my pocket feels heavier than its negligible weight should allow. "You ready for the big moment?" Taylor slides into a front row seat, her phone half hidden in her palm. She gives me a barely perceptible nod. "Never been more ready," I whisper. The lights dim. Principal Wilson approaches the microphone, his voice booming through the sound system that will soon carry a very different message. "Welcome to our annual Leadership Awards ceremony, where we recognize students who exemplify the values of Jefferson High." My eyes drift to the wall of previous winners, their photographs arranged in neat rows. Soon Madison's portrait will join themer it should have. When Madison takes the stage, the audience bursts into applause. She's radiant in her cream-colored blazer and tailored pants, hair arranged in soft waves that catch the light. Perfect. Polished. Presidential. "Thank you all for this tremendous honor." Her voice carries the practiced cadence of someone who has rehearsed in front of mirrors. Leadership isn't about standing in front, but about lifting others up along the way. My fingers trace the outline of the flash drive, waiting. In our community, we often overlook those who struggle daily with limitations beyond their control. Madison's gaze finds me, and she offers a sympathetic smile that twists my stomach. My sister Violet has taught me the true meaning of perseverance. The audience turns to look at me, a collective rush of heads swiveling to find the inspiration porn star of Madison's narrative. I meet their gazes steadily. Supporting Violet through her limitations has shown me that real leadership means standing up for those who cannot stand for themselves. The words burn like acid. 5 years of similar statements flash through my mind, each one positioning her as savior, me as project. Taylor's hand tightens around her phone. Her jaw clenches. "With compassion and determination," Madison continues, "we can create a world where everyone has a voice, even those society too often silences." The irony nearly chokes me. The speech continues, each platitude building on the last. The audience nods along, captivated by her performance. Teachers beam with pride. Principal Wilson stands to the side, hands clasped behind his back, watching the future valedictorian inspire her community. When Madison receives the Crystal Award, the applause is thunderous. She holds it aloft, tears glistening in her eye tears she practiced producing in our bathroom mirror last night. "I couldn't have done it without her," Madison says, gesturing toward me with the award. Every eye turns my way again. I force my face to remain neutral, even as my heart pounds against my ribs. Principal Wilson steps forward. "We also have Linda Sutton here tonight, Madison's mother, who has supported both her daughters through tremendous challenges. Mrs. Sutton, would you like to say a few words?" Mom rises from her front row seat, dabbing her eyes. She takes the microphone with trembling hands. "As a mother, there's no greater joy than watching your child shine," she says. "Madison has always put others before herself, especially her sister. From the moment of Violet's accident, Madison stepped up in ways most teenagers never would." The flash drive grows hot in my palm, now or never. I wheel myself forward, the movement drawing attention. Principal Wilson notices first, his eyebrows rising in question. "Before we continue," I say, my voice quieter than intended, "there's something everyone should hear." Confusion ripples through the crowd. Mom freezes, microphone still in hand. "Violet, this isn't the time," she whispers, but her words carry through the sound system. Principal Wilson hesitates, his gaze darting between Madison's frozen smile and my steady expression. Something in my face must convince him. "What would you like to share, Violet?" Madison steps forward. "We should continue with the program. Violet sometimes gets confused in high-stress situations." The patronizing tone is so familiar it almost makes me doubt myself. Almost. "1 minute," I say to Principal Wilson. "That's all I need." He nods cautiously. Taylor moves from her seat, approaching the sound system. The technician looks to Principal Wilson, who gives a reluctant nod. I hand Taylor the flash drive. What's happening? Madison hisses, moving toward me. The first notes of static fill the auditorium as Taylor connects the drive. Then Madison's voice, unmistakable, unfiltered, pours through the speakers. No one's going to believe her. She's too weak to fight back. The audience goes utterly still. Principal Wilson's mouth falls open slightly. Madison lunges for the sound system, but Taylor blocks her path. Don't, she warns. This is ridiculous, Madison sputters, turning to face the crowd. That's obviously edited. Violet is doing this for attention. Taylor pulls out her phone, tapping the screen. I have video evidence of what happened yesterday at rehearsal. She hands it to Principal Wilson, whose face darkens as he watches. He motions to the tech booth. The projection screen lowers, and suddenly everyone is watching Madison carefully positioning my wheelchair near the edge of the stage ramp, adjusting the brakes. And then the subtle push that sent me tumbling to the floor. Gasps ripple through the auditorium. Mom sinks into her chair, the microphone hanging limply from her hand. That's not what happened, Madison insists, her voice rising. She's making this up. She's always been jealous of me. She's doing this for attention. I wheel forward until we're face to face. I've had 5 years of being invisible, I say quietly. Attention was never what I wanted. Principal Wilson clears his throat. Madison, I need you to come with me to my office immediately. We're suspending you pending a full investigation of this incident and any others. The perfect facade crumbles. Madison's eyes dart wildly around the room, searching for allies, finding none. Even Mom sits frozen, unable to defend her this time. You'll regret this, Madison hisses at me before storming off the stage, heels clicking against the hardwood. The silence that follows feels endless. Then, gradually, voices rise, confused, supportive, questioning. People approach me with stunned expressions, some offering awkward apologies, others simply staring as if seeing me for the first time. I remain exactly where I am, neither moving forward nor retreating. For once, I am not the girl in the wheelchair at the edge of the stage. I am Violet Sutton, finally seen. The school hallway buzzes with whispers as I wheel past. Fingers point, voices hush, eyes follow, but something's different. These aren't the usual looks of pity or discomfort. They're looks of recognition. Violet! Eliza Donovan hurries toward me, her cheerleading uniform crisp against the dull school lockers. She's never spoken more than 3 words to me in the 5 years we've shared homeroom. What Madison did was terrible. If I'd known. It's okay, I say, the words automatic after years of making others comfortable. No, it's not. Eliza's hand touches my shoulder, the gesture awkward but sincere. We all just assumed. I mean, she always made it sound like. I nod, understanding the unfinished thought. Madison had crafted her narrative expertly, positioning herself as the selfless sister, me as the helpless burden. The perfect symbiotic relationship for her public image. More students approach throughout the morning. Some apologize directly, others just nod, making eye contact for the first time. By lunch, I've received more genuine interaction than the previous semester combined. This is wild, Taylor says, sliding into the seat across from me in the cafeteria. Mr. Henderson pulled me aside to ask if I knew about other incidents. Apparently, they're reviewing everything Madison's been involved with. I push my salad around with my fork. What did you tell him? The truth, that I suspected things weren't right, but yesterday was the first time I caught it on camera. Taylor leans forward. Principal Wilson wants to see you after lunch. After lunch, Principal Wilson's office feels smaller than I remembered. Perhaps because the last time I was here, Madison did all the talking. Violet. Principal Wilson rises from behind her desk. Her salt and pepper hair is pulled back in a severe bun, but her eyes are kind, troubled. I've watched the video multiple times. I've also spoken with the tech department about the audio recording. I sit silently, waiting. The student council vice president confirmed what we heard. She places her hands flat on the desk. I want to personally apologize. We failed to see what was happening. The words should feel vindicating. Instead, they sit heavy in my stomach. Recognition matters more than apologies, I say finally. Principal Wilson nods slowly. Yes, I believe it does. The drive home stretches endless and silent. Mom's knuckles are white against the steering wheel. The car that once symbolized freedom now feels like a moving coffin, burying us in the aftermath of exposed truths. Madison's bedroom door remains closed when we arrive, a keep out sign hastily taped at eye level. Mom's gaze lingers on it before she turns to me. "Are you hungry?" she asks, the question trivial against the weight of what remains unspoken. "No." I wheel toward my room, needing space to process. The phone rings 3 times during the afternoon. Each time, Mom answers with the same tight voice, offering minimal responses. I catch fragments, taking some time, processing as a family, appreciate your concern. At dinner, Mom sets 3 places at the table. Madison's chair remains empty, the unused plate a presence in itself. "She won't come out," Mom says, serving spaghetti that neither of us wants. Says she can't face anyone. The irony sits between us, untouched like the garlic bread. The doorbell rings at 7. Taylor's parents stand on the porch, a casserole dish between them. "We thought you might need a break from cooking, Mrs. Alvarez says, her smile warm as she hands the dish to Mom. "And we wanted to invite Violet for dinner tomorrow to celebrate her courage." Mom's expression flickers between gratitude and discomfort. "That's very kind, but..." "I'd like that," I interrupt, wheeling forward. "Thank you." After they leave, unexpected allies emerge from unexpected places. The tech booth operator emails a list of incidents he's documented over the past year, times when Madison took credit for projects she minimally contributed to, moments when she dismissed others' ideas only to present them as her own later. Miss Rivera, my English teacher, calls to admit she witnessed Madison removing my name from a group poetry submission last semester, replacing it with her own. "I should have said something then," she says, voice heavy with regret. "I convinced myself I misunderstood." The student council vice president's resignation letter appears on social media, a public apology for enabling Madison's behavior through silent complicity. Just after 9, a familiar car pulls into our driveway. Aunt Marie steps out, overnight bag in hand, her determined stride carrying her to our door before Mom can process her arrival. "Linda," I hear her say in the entryway. "This isn't new. This has been happening for years." Later, Mom sits on the edge of my bed, her weight creating a familiar tilt in the mattress. In the dim light, she looks older, the lines around her mouth deeper than I remembered. "How long?" she asks simply. "How long has this been happening, Violet?" I reach for the journal in my nightstand drawer. 5 years of documented incidents, patterns too consistent to dismiss as misunderstandings. I place it in her hands, watching as she opens to the first entry dated 3 weeks after I came home from the hospital. Mom's breath catches as she reads. Her finger traces the childish handwriting, the careful documentation of a 12-year-old trying to make sense of her changing world. "I didn't want to see it," she whispers, the admission rough in her throat. "I couldn't bear to think that while one daughter was suffering, the other was..." She stops, unable to finish. "I don't want revenge," I tell her, my voice steadier than I feel. "I want recognition." Mom closes the journal, holding it against her chest as if absorbing its truth through proximity. Her eyes, when they meet mine, hold something I haven't seen in years' clarity. "Things will be different now," she promises. For the first time since the accident, I believe her. The apology died in Madison's throat the next day. She stood in Violet's doorway, tears balanced perfectly on her lower lashes, not quite falling, just glistening enough to catch the light. Her navy cardigan hung open over a crisp white blouse, the uniform of contrition. "Vi, we need to talk about what happened." I wheeled myself back from my desk, creating distance without retreating. "About which part, the push or the lies afterward?" Madison stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, her perfume arriving before she did something expensive our father had brought back from a business trip. She perched on the edge of my bed, hands clasped in her lap like a politician at a town hall. "You don't understand what pressure I've been under. The scholarship committee looks at everything: character references, leadership positions, community involvement." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "This could affect my entire future. My college applications." The threat hung between us, wrapped in concern. "Your future was worth shoving me off a stage?" I kept my voice flat, refusing to match her theatrics. It wasn't like that. Madison leaned forward. The family thinks you misunderstood a joke. That's what I told Grandma when she called. My fingers tightened around my armrests. A joke. This doesn't have to become bigger than it is. Everyone makes mistakes. Including you? Or just me for calling you out? She stood, smoothing invisible wrinkles from her slacks. I've already called Jessica and Aiden. They're willing to speak up for me about how supportive I've always been of you. Your friends from student council? I laughed, the sound sharp even to my own ears. The ones who watched you take credit for my tutoring hours? Madison's mask slipped, irritation flashing across her features before she composed herself. I don't know why you're being so difficult. I came here to make things right. No, I rolled forward, forcing her to step back. You came here to make things comfortable again. There's a difference. The space between us vibrated with 17 years of imbalance. Madison turned and left without another word, the door clicking shut behind her with perfect restraint. 3 days later, we sat before the school board. Madison, my mother, and me, lined up like evolutionary stages of the same woman. Principal Wilson presided at the center of the long table, flanked by 4 board members and the district superintendent. Madison had arrived prepared, a 3-page statement printed on heavyweight paper, her voice carried through the conference room with practiced confidence. While I deeply regret the misunderstanding that occurred, I want to emphasize that at no point did I intentionally endanger my sister. She glanced at me, her expression a masterpiece of concern. Violet has always struggled with feeling included, and I recognize now that my efforts to help may have sometimes felt like overstepping. The word misunderstanding bloomed like a bruise in the air between us. Principal Wilson removed her glasses. We've reviewed the video evidence, Madison. It clearly shows deliberate action on your part. Video can be misleading, Madison countered. A single moment without context. The door opened and Taylor slipped in, followed by 3 other students I barely recognized. The vice president of the student council, a sophomore from my English class, the tech booth operator. Principal Wilson acknowledged them with a nod. We've asked several students to provide their perspectives. One by one they spoke. The English class sophomore described Madison taking credit for a group project. The vice president confirmed overhearing Madison's threat in the auditorium. The tech operator detailed other incidents he'd witnessed. Each testimony hit like stones against glass, fracturing the carefully constructed image Madison had built. How, asked the superintendent, leaning forward on thick forearms, did none of this come to light before now? The silence that followed felt like an indictment of everyone in the room. The board's decision came swiftly. Madison's Model Leadership Award revoked, her suspension extended through the end of the semester, community service hours doubled. The scholarship committee would be notified. My mother didn't speak until we reached the parking lot. Your father will be home this weekend. We're seeing Dr. Brenner on Friday. The family therapist? I asked, surprised. Yes. She didn't look at me as she helped me into the car. All of us. On Friday, the therapist's office smelled like coffee and old books. Dr. Brenner wore no wedding ring and had pictures of cats on her desk. She watched Madison refuse the offered tissue box, watched my mother twist her hands in her lap, watched me settle my wheelchair at an angle where I could see everyone's face. Healing begins with honesty, not harmony, doctor. Brenner said after Madison's first defensive outburst. Madison, why do you think your actions aren't being viewed as you intended? Because Violet twisted everything, Madison snapped. She always exaggerates how hard things are for her. My mother's sharp intake of breath surprised me. Madison, that's not true. Madison's head whipped toward her. Mom, you always said we needed to be patient with Violet's need for attention. I was wrong. The words fell from my mother's lips like stones. I've been wrong for a long time. That evening, my mother disappeared into the attic. I heard her footsteps overhead, the scrape of boxes being moved. When she came down, her eyes were red, her arms full of dusty photo albums and trophies I'd forgotten existed. The next morning, I overheard her on the phone with Aunt Marie, their voices rising and falling like waves. It's a family pattern. Aunt Marie was saying, your mother did the same with your sister. When Madison came home from her first day of community service, her face was pale with fury. "The scholarship committee wants to meet with me." She threw the words at me in the kitchen. "You've ruined everything." I set down my glass of water. "You chose your path when you pushed me." "Madison, that's enough." My mother's voice cut between us, sharper than I'd ever heard it. "Go to your room." Madison's mouth opened, closed, opened again. For the first time in her life, no one was rushing to soften her fall. She turned and walked away, footsteps echoing down the hall, each one spelling out the unfamiliar sound of consequences. 5 months later, the wheelchair ramp gleams under the auditorium lights, positioned front and center on the stage instead of hidden at the side. Principal Wilson stands at the podium, his silver hair catching the spotlight as he surveys the assembled students of Jefferson High. "Today, we welcome a student who taught us about true leadership," he says, his voice carrying to the back row, "not through grand gestures, but through the courage to stand in her truth. Please welcome Violet Sutton." The audience quiets as I wheel myself forward. No one pushes me today. The journey across the stage feels both endless and instantaneous. When I reach the microphone, I adjust it downward without apology. My index card sits flat against the podium, 3 lines crossed out and replaced with words that are mine alone. The silence stretches until I'm ready to break it. 5 months ago, I sat in this auditorium with 3 lines to read. I begin, my voice steadier than I feel. Today, I have something different to say. Faces turn upward toward Minot with pity or polite disinterest, but with attention, real attention. Taylor sits in the front row, her eyes never leaving mine. "People often talk about standing up for yourself." I continue. "But standing isn't the point. Being seen is. Each of us deserves to be recognized for who we actually are, not what others expect us to be." My gaze finds my mother in the audience, sitting alone where our family used to sit as a unit. Madison chose not to attend. "I'm not here to inspire you because I use a wheelchair. I'm not here to make you feel better about yourselves. I'm here because visibility matters. Recognition matters." The words flow now, unplanned but true. See people for who they are, not what you expect. That's all any of us want. That's all I ever wanted. When I finish, the applause starts slowly, then builds. A standing ovation ripples through the auditorium like a wave. I don't smile and bow. I simply sit, finally visible. Afterward, classmates approach without the awkward hesitation that once shadowed their interactions. Jessica Martin asks about collaborating on the yearbook photography. Michael Perkins mentions a wheelchair basketball league his cousin plays in. Each conversation feels normal, unremarkable, which makes them remarkable. At dinner that night, Madison picks at her food, her usual animation dimmed to something quieter. The silence between us isn't comfortable, but it's honest. Mom places a college brochure beside my plate. "The photography program here looks exceptional," she says, "and their accessibility accommodations are highly rated." The simple acknowledgement of my future plans that have nothing to do with Madison settles something inside me. "I've been researching their application requirements," I reply. Aunt Marie passes the potatoes. "Your portfolio is already impressive. Those landscape studies you took at the park should definitely be included." Madison looks up. "You never mentioned you were building a portfolio." "You never asked," I answer, not unkindly. Later that week, I pass the school's recognition board and stop. Among the student achievements, my name appears spelled correctly, without fanfare, listed for my photography award at the regional exhibition. Taylor pauses beside me. "It shouldn't have taken all this." "But it did," I say, "and now things are different." My wheelchair moves forward with new confidence, no longer trying to be invisible in the hallway. In the library, I spread college applications across the table, documenting my actual achievements rather than allowing them to disappear. A note about Madison's community service requirement sits on my desk at home, but that's her responsibility now, not my problem, not my project. The dinner table conversation includes questions directed to me. "What do you need for the college application deadline?" Mom asks instead of assuming. The family photo on the mantle has been replaced. In the new one, I'm not half hidden behind Madison. We stand and seat as equals, fully visible. In my journal that night, I write, "Strength isn't about standing alone. Sometimes it's about sitting firmly in your truth." I close the journal and look directly at my reflection in the mirror, speaking as if to someone beyond it. Silence protected them, not me. Speaking wasn't about being heard, it was about affirming what was real. The question remains how truth changes relationships. Some break, some transform, some simply become honest for the first time. What matters is moving forward, neither defined by my wheelchair nor by my family's perception. Just Violet visible at last.